great day to kill.
Son, where do you think you're going? We've still got last night's episode of Keeping Up with the Caesars to watch.
It's none of your business, Dad. I can go wherever I please. Ugh, I'm a grown man.
There's no need to be so hostile. I simply want to know where my son is running off to.
Gosh, you wouldn't understand, Dad. I have to do things for myself, and I don't have to tell you about it.
Maybe I will understand this time. Go ahead. Tell me how you're feeling.
Fine. You really want to know? All right, Father. I'll tell you.
What the? Where'd they come from?
Zip it, old man. The Greek Gaius, Lucius, Titus, Caius, Aeneas, Appius, Olus, Marcus, Publius, Spurius, Tiberius is talking. I'm on my way to the war for the 4th time because I want to kill. I crave soaking my cuticles and hands in the blood of other people. I thirst for the feeling of standing over my fallen enemy, knowing that I killed them by brute force. Every day I wake up and all I can think about is the next time I can kill. And the best part is, I'm good at killing. So just let me go and do my job like I let you go and do yours. Now will you leave me alone?
Son, please, I am begging you. Don't do this a 4th time. Why must you kill? Why can't we just be one happy family? Bake chocolate drizzled biscotti and read the latest issue of Athena's Wise Guide to Self-Control, peacefully in our home. What drives you to be like this?
I don't have to explain myself to you. I am going to war a 4th time, and that is final.
No, you're not, young man. You're coming home with me. After all, the law states that you're exempt from war after 3 of these so-called heroic acts.
Get your slimy paws off of me. I am going to quench my thirst for blood, and you can't do anything about it.
Fine. If you refuse to listen to me, then I have no choice but to disinherit you.
What? So there we have it, folks. Yet another case of disinheritance. Can Rome get any more original than this? Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Cicero, and I'm an expert in rhetoric. Today I will be guiding you through a case that seems like everything else we've seen before. A father disinheriting his son, but with a cruel twist. The father disinherits his son for going to war a 4th time. He's already been to war 3 times and is now labeled a hero and is exempt from fighting in war. So why does he want to go to war again? Maybe there's something more to this story than we think. Let's find out, starting with the exordium. What's the exordium, you ask? Alright, so the exordium. This is the introductory part in a forensic speech, which brings the mind of the audience into a proper condition to receive the rest of the speech. I advise to promise brevity in this passage, so as to not wear out the audience. If the case is not suitable for jest, it is advantageous to insert something appalling at the beginning of the exordium. For this introduction, I also advise to refrain from vivacity, generality, interchangeability, and tediousness.
To be a hero, you have to be more than just a good fighter. To deserve that title, you must be an honorable and valiant person. My son, folks, is not honorable. As I introduce the true nature of his so-called heroism, I promise to be brief. On the outside, to be determined to fight a 4th time despite only needing to go to war 3 times may seem to be an honorable thing. But ladies and gentlemen, it is astonishing that this violent, cruel man has positioned himself to be a hero. I am amazed and nearly speechless. Yes, he's a good soldier. Yes, he knows how to fight in a battle mercilessly. But does that make him a good man who deserves the inheritance I intended for my son so that he may start a family and leave the wickedness behind? No. His whole life he has been aggressive and quick to anger. I have raised my son with the hope he may grow up to be a respectable father too. But instead, I am left with a bloodthirsty soldier that craves the battlefield purely for a cruel desire to kill as he wishes. It is within his right to continue fighting despite 3 heroic acts already, and it is also within my right to disinherit him for abandoning his duty to continue the family line and indulging in a life of barbarity. It is my intention that with this disinheritance, he may come to his senses and leave the violence behind, even for his own sake. But until then, I cannot call this man my son any longer.
Bloodthirsty? Is he a vampire? Get the garlic!
What in the gods' names is happening here? Yoo-hoo! Cicero, can you tell me what's going on? Hey there, boy, where have you been? The trial has begun, and your father just finished presenting his exordium. An exordium what? All I know from war is exercise! No, an exordium. Catch up. We're moving on to the narration.
What's that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. In Book 1 of the De Inventione, I write that the narration should explain the events that led up to this point. There are several types of narration, but a narration concerning individuals should be portrayed with great vivacity. The narration should also be brief and clear and plausible.
Okay, let me have a go at this. 7 years ago. That doesn't sound right. How about once upon a time? Nope, almost too good. As a devoted father to my son, it pains me to stand against him before the court. Never would I have imagined that the same sword my child used to slaughter his opponents in 3 wars would end up being pointed toward me. However, it is the very greed fueling his thirst for the blood and glory found in these battles that have led us here. Now, being that I have spent my life tirelessly protecting him from the cruelties of reality and the outside world, today I must continue that responsibility by protecting him from himself. I refuse to stand idly by as he succumbs to the atrocities he has committed and prides himself in, especially when the law exempts him from continuing the streak of bloodshed by engaging in an unnecessary 4th heroic act. I originally welcomed the participation in the first 2 wars after seeing it give him a sense of purpose that he lacked before. His commitment to the art of war seemed to be an innocent path for my son to bring our family honor while enjoying the fruits of success. Truthfully, I even felt my own sense of pride in raising a national hero despite a villain's origin story. You see, my son was not always an alleged Roman hero for the history books to revere and soldiers to aspire to become. He was a troubled youth who was all too pleased to hear stories of combat, even asking me to replace typical children's bedtime stories with the detailed accounts of Roman warfare and deadly massacres of our enemies. I recall a time when my son took any chance to hunt and dismember small, fragile animals, such as rabbits and fawns, while other children his age were playing with toys or engaging in sports that did not include ruthless murder. I admit that I was fearful of him during this era, but I hoped he would grow out of it if I raised him in an environment with gentle care and unconditional love. Sadly, my efforts to quell the sinister evil living within my boy failed. He grew more impatient and invincible, letting his rage and desire to be a great conqueror consume him. After his return from the 3rd war he fought for, I took note of his dissatisfaction with a mundane life, away from violence, battle, and the power he won from inflicting pain upon others. My son is no hero or so-called Superman. He's a devilish barbarian with a concerning hunger for death. He yearns for a 4th war to satisfy his appetite for suffering and the domination of his victims. Therefore, I have a duty as his father and creator to wake my son up from this monstrous spell with the consequence of disinheritance. It is necessary that I do all that I can to save my son from bringing about his own demise, blinded by selfish desires for power masked as heroism. I fear that he won't stop at simply plundering all of Rome's adversaries. If he is willing to act in defiance against his own father, then what is stopping him from turning against his own country?
That's not true at all. I didn't dismember every animal I brought to you. Father, you've done nothing but embarrass me and bring shame to my name. I will not let you get away with this.
Is that a threat? That sounds like a threat to me. If it looks like a threat, walks like a threat, and talks like a threat, then...
It is not a threat!
Son, please, behave yourself. Do you think I want to be up here reciting this speech? I don't. But I have to for my sake, for your sake, and for the sake of our republic. Please, just let me get through this.
I hate to interrupt, but I kind of have to do my thing. What thing? This thing. Now it's about to start getting juicy. Here's where we start getting into argumentation. The partition is where we let the audience know the structure for the rest of the oration. There are 2 types of partitions I discuss in the De Inventione. The first type is where we lay out the points we agree and disagree on with respect to the opponent, and the second type lays out what we as the orator will discuss.
I appreciate my son's military service, and I applaud my son's bravery during his previous 3 tours. However, as his father, it is my duty to prevent my son from going further down the path of darkness and destruction he is currently on in any way I can. My son is an adult. He can make decisions for himself. But I have the right to disinherit my son, to show him and others that our family is not okay with this path. If my son wishes to go fight a fourth time, I have no power to stop him, but I will not tacitly support him as he harmed both himself and others.
As a parent myself, I hear you. My son recently developed an interest in rocks. Now, I'm all about supporting my children, but I simply will not have him pulling out rocks at family gatherings. At that point, I must make it clear to him that I'm not stifling his imagination, I'm simply looking out for him.
Yeah, it sounds like he might end up stuck between a rock and a hard place. Tough crowd. Anyways, let's continue with this father's heartfelt speech about his son. I have a comedy show later today.
Yeah, good luck with that. Look, Cicero's about to speak.
Thank you. Quiet in the peanut gallery, please. As I was trying to say, we need to move this oration on to the next part. As I explained in the De Inventione, the confirmation is a section that incorporates evidence into the argument and is intended to introduce credit, authority, and support to the case. Attributes of persons or other actions can be utilized to help bolster arguments made by particular sides of a case. If a rhetor plans to argue against a defense, I encourage them to highlight the defendant's nature, manner of life, interest, or fortune, or any of the attributes of the person that discredit the defendant's character.
One honest and fair act does not make a good man, and nor does three. It is the intentions of a man, the integrity, and the value behind his actions that make him a hero. I can assure you that the intentions of my son's military endeavors and his grand scheme are anything but heroic. He has performed great deeds with the knowledge that he would grant him supremacy among his fellow men. The limited actions which have granted him exemption from service are not under debate. It is his plans beyond these actions, his character in conspiring. As his father, the man closest to him, I have come forward to protect the Republic from my son's ferocious nature. We have all had brushes with glory. We know the sweet taste of triumph. But our appetite starts and ends only for our Republic, not for ourselves. While he's been away with his fellow soldiers, they have seen his facade of the noble soldier break away. I hear his whisperings in his room when he thinks I'm not around, recounting the slaughter he's brought to his enemies and the sins he's committed against people's backs. Do his 3 valiant deeds wash away these whispers and the all too evident malice brewing underneath? We have been approaching a time of peace and prosperity within our republic. What will happen when my son is left without an enemy to crush? Will he turn his blade to his fellow man or further onto the republic in order to fulfill his thirst for dominance? His corrupt obsession with pride and power will ultimately lead to his own demise or ours if left unchecked. I have put myself and my family on the line here to protect all of us in the republic. Please do not misunderstand me in this. I care for my son dearly. His inheritance is the only way I may bring him to his senses as he's grown now. I am terrified for him and what he may be capable of. Please do not let him prey upon our society's yearning for a hero to come home. Rather, let yourselves question the circumstances which have brought him home unscathed and with such a troubling grin on his face.
He whispers about slaughter? Yeah, that definitely sounds like it should have stayed in the diary drafts.
I'm more worried about him turning against us. Who will carry the weight of Roman comedy on her back when he murders me?
Pretty sure that won't be a problem.
Enough, you two. The father still has 2 more parts to his speech left. Now let's move on to the refutation. The refutation exists to impair, disprove, or weaken the confirmation or proof in our opponent's speech. An argument is refuted by showing an assumption is not granted, or the assumption is granted but denied conclusion. The argument is fallacious, or the argument is met with an equally strong or stronger one.
Would you all like to know why he sits here today, not only with a sly smile and with the stains of his enemy's blood worn proudly on his clothes? His dreams seem to be my nightmares, his continuation on the battlefield and subjugation of entire populations. He boasts of past killings, fondly recalling the blood splattered on their faces. He's not simply proud of his bloodshed, he revels in it. It is only too soon before he finds himself in a situation on the wrong side of the sword. Recall, my fellow countrymen, that I have endangered his inheritance on the grounds that he shall not return to war. It is my right to do with my son's inheritance as I see fit. However, we all know how I have loved and supported my son throughout his life. What reason now would I have to throw these years of fatherhood away? Clearly, it is not for a lack of care. You can see the desperation written on my face. I'm a man at his wits and calling in my last resort. I've seen the rage my son has come to carry. I've been witness to the obsession, the outburst, and the inhumanity my son has let festered within him since first stepping foot on the battlefield. My decision to disinherit was not one made without great discretion. My young son must be met with some reality if he's to continue his life here. We exist as our republic together. No amount of bravery, stealth, or bloodshed in battle will release you from your role as a Roman first and foremost. If he cannot learn to leave his avarice and hate aside to become successful here among his peers, he does not deserve the inheritance and care I have provided all these years. Hear my pleas. I beg you, do not let my son continue down this path. For my sanity and for the entire republic's safety, including my son's, let me present him with the only punishment I can give him before life throws far worse at him.
Do you hear that, my son? You can't say, I hate you, Mom, or I will disinherit you.
Oh, for the God's sake, calm down. Is your son murdering people in battle or ripping Bambi and Dumbo to shreds? I don't think so. The father is presenting a fair case. If he is afraid of his own son killing him and bringing shame to the family for being a murderer, of course he should disinherit him.
Don't make your decision too quickly now. Let's hear the last of what the father has to say. Cue the peroration. Now we've come to the end. The peroration is the conclusion of the oration. In order to refresh the audience's memory, the orator should include a summary of the case in the peroration in either an indignatio, a passage inducing ill will against the opponent, or a conquestio, a passage eliciting sympathy from the audience. Because the father is trying to highlight his son's negative qualities, he is going to go for an indignatio.
As you have heard from me throughout my humble speech and plea to you all today, this cruelty has multiple layers. Firstly, regardless of his so-called hero status, it is not right for someone to be so cruel that they seek to kill for their own pleasure, nor is it right for the Roman military to allow him back and simply because he's willing to fight. This affects me as his father because I've watched and continue to watch the demise of my own blood and flesh into a bloodthirsty killer enabled by this state. This affects himself because I know deep down my son is still in there. Not allowing me to disinherit him means not allowing himself to have second chance at this life. Lastly, this affects the entire population of Rome because the gods only know what he would do if he unleashed his inner violence on us instead of just our enemies at war. Knowing how one man's violence affects his father's livelihood, his sense of self, and the entire Roman society, how can you defend his apparently heroic status and his right to his inheritance? He wakes up every morning with a desire to kill and lays his head down at night with his thirst for violence still unsatisfied. The only way he is able to push those thoughts away for a moment is by reminding himself of when he can murder without consequence under the disguise of being a war hero. Does that not enrage you? To be a hero is a distinct honor reserved only for the best of men. And someone like him, whose eyes light up only at the sight of lifeless eyes and frigid corpses, wants to claim that title? It is an insult not only to all those who are true heroes, but to the Roman spirit. Please, for the sake of myself, my son, and all of you, understand that this man is ruled by violence. But he was not born this way. I have seen him live a happy and cheerful life before, and I know he can again. I have exhausted all my options to make that happen, and now, disinheritance may be the only way to stop him from continuing on with this violent path.
What? How dare he say that I have a cruel and cold heart? I am a perfectly normal soldier just trying to go to war for the 4th time. You can't control me forever, old man.
Son, remember me? It's me, your mother.
Mother? How are you here? Are you here to stay this time?
No, son, I'm not here to stay. I was able to come down here to visit you because of a special request from the gods. Son, is this the life you want for yourself? Killing others, hating your father, having no friends, embarrassing yourself in front of all of Rome, pretending the kitchen butternut are swords and having no money because your father disinherited you?
Well, not really. I only chose this after you left us, Mother. This was the only option for me.
Do not say that, my son. There's more to life than killing. I know you miss me, but remember, I'm always there in your heart. I will only be in your heart, though, as long as you keep it pure and free of cruelty, especially animal cruelty.
Really? Well then, whatever you say, Mother, I will do as you please.
That is wonderful news, son. Now let's enjoy some quality time together. Fetch your father, will you?
Look, Father, Mother is here.
Where, son?
Right here.
Does anyone know what just happened?
Only the most beautiful and heartfelt moment since the dawn of time.
Hey y'all, what did I miss? I walked across the street and the foot traffic was crazy.
The son's ghost mother returned and comforted him. Then the son and father walked hand in hand towards the shining sun, where the ghost mother watched over them.
What? That's not a part of the oration. The peroration is supposed to be the last part, and then the jury was supposed to make their decision. Did they even read the De Inventione? Ah, shucks. Well, I guess that's all we have for time for today, folks. See you all next time.